I'm Dave McWhorter, president of the Jazz Arts Foundation, and on behalf of the Jazz Arts Foundation and the Lexington Public Library, I would like to introduce to you the Open World Jazz Ensemble. Give them a warm Kentucky welcome, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Mike Tracy. I'm director of the Jazz Studies Program, University of Louisville. In fact, the Jamie Abersol Jazz Studies Program, so we have something in common. Jamie is a great benefactor for us, too. I'm glad you like this group because they're very exciting to work with, and I'm also pleased that so many people came out tonight. It was kind of a last-minute thing, and I want to thank Dave McWhorter and the Lexington Jazz Federation. What is it? Jazz Arts Federation. I'll get it right. Foundation. Okay, thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. I need people to help me out. But it's really great to be here. We've had a long day. I'll explain a little bit about what we've been doing over the last 2 weeks, because this is the last couple days of their stay here in the States. I want to bring up Olga Petrova, who is the facilitator from Moscow, the American Councils, and through the Open World, and she'll tell you a little bit about Open World.
Good evening. It's my third time in Kentucky, and I keep coming to the state because of the warm atmosphere. And I think my musicians would agree with me that probably it's one of the best places in the United States. So we're here under the Open World program, as Mike said, and it's a program that is aimed on bringing together Russians and Americans so that we could learn a lot more about each other rather than watching what we're told on TV. And jazz program is one of my favorite. I think it's the most favorite program because I love that music. And each time I travel with really unique and great musicians. And it's my pleasure to introduce them to you. So we have on saxophone Timur Nekrasov. Our lady trumpet player Yulia Malikova. On drums Pavel Egorov. On bass Denis Shushkov. And on piano Pavel Egorov.
And we're very happy to have Olga here, and also Sasha, we'll meet in a minute, who's our translator. This is our sixth group that have come to Kentucky, to the University of Louisville, and they've been from throughout the country of Russia. It's amazing seeing people from Siberia come to Louisville or down from the south. We have no appreciation, at least I didn't, of how large a country, 11 time zones. I know when I've been over there, it's amazing how much it's like the United States, but how different it is as well. And the best part about it is, of course, the music, because we all play the same language then. What they've done this last couple of weeks is that they played in schools today in Lafayette. We did Scott County. We also have played at the Youth Performing Arts School in Louisville, the Brown School, and a number of other locations throughout Louisville, as well as being featured group on one of the nights of our Jazz Fest. And I'd like to invite you next year. I'll make sure Dave has some information to send out to our Jazz Festival up in Louisville. And we always have something at the end of the month, and it's end of February, and it's a great experience. And we usually have an international night. This group joined a group from Leeds, England, which is our sister city, and also an Italian pianist. So one night we had a pretty diverse mixture of music from all different parts of the world. So it's a really exciting event. The first number they played tonight, if you didn't recognize that, was All the Things You Are. The next one is one by a Russian trumpeter, who was probably one of the first to come to the States and back in the, I guess, early 70s to play with the great Art Blakey. His name was Valery Pomarov, and this is a number entitled Dialogue. And following that, so you don't have a lot of discussion tonight, will be one by the wonderful Horace Silver, and it's called Senor Blues. But first, Dialogue. Senor Blues, Senor Blues. This next number is one that Timur wrote. I'm going to bring up our translator, Sasha Etlin, and he's going to let Timur explain where the song came from.
Да.
Именно когда я приехал сюда, в то место, о котором долго мечтал, ну, Америка, родина джаза, и по моим ощущениям, моя родина тоже, я ну, как почувствовал, что такое Россия, ну, в каком-то музыкальном смысле, ну, для себя.
You know, when I first came here to America, which is of course is the homeland of jazz, and I felt that I'm back home, in a certain sense. So I composed this piece to show the interrelation between Russia and America.
Ну, если перефразировать, то можно сказать, что большой видится на расстоянии, именно когда ты находишься не дома, ты можешь понять, что это такое дом для тебя.
Well, so basically, just to paraphrase, it is much better for us to look at large things from a distance. It is much easier to understand what home means when you are away from home.
Ну, собственно, в этой мелодии хотел показать контраст между красками джазовой музыки и русской музыки.
Right. So in my piece, you're going to hear the contrast between the sounds of Russian music and the sounds of jazz.
How about that? That was pretty cool, wasn't it? Yeah. I know people always keep asking me, where is jazz going? Well, that's the kind of thing I think it's going to. I mean, other cultures are assimilating our music as we assimilated theirs and making other things out of it. So it's really exciting to hear that. Also, just to let you know, these guys and young lady will be making a CD tomorrow. They're going to have to get back to Louisville tonight so we can get some sleep. And tomorrow morning they're going to go in the studio to help document their time here. They're going to be spending time, I guess, recording about 7 or 8 selections, and eventually we'll put the CD out under there for them to document their time here in the States, and also to be available. A couple of years ago, we put out one with a collection of all the groups that have been here, so I'm going to send one to your library to make sure you have one in stock. This group won't be on it, but the other ones will. Approximately 60 musicians from Russia, United States, our faculty and students, so it's pretty neat. It went to, in fact, the people at Open World sent it to all the people in Congress, the Senate, and the House, so they might support the arts, you know? So, you know, talk about investing in the future. This next number is going to feature Denis on bass. It's a beautiful tune entitled My One and Only Love. Dennis. Well, just like American students study Russian music, Tchaikovsky, Prokofiev, all of the great classics, the Russian jazz musicians also study classic American players and composers. This next number is one by a little-known saxophonist, unless you're really into the music. He played with everybody from Miles Davis to Horace Silver to Art Blakey, all the ones you've heard so far tonight. His name was Hank Mobley, and he was a great saxophone player. And this one is written by Hank, entitled Infrared. I think you'll enjoy it. Thank you very much. Now that you've heard them play a little bit, I'll give you a little bit of background. They knew each other, most of them, before, but they didn't really meet as a group until 2 weeks ago. That's the whole idea about what we're doing here with Open World, is to have the groups come together over in Russia who haven't really played together a lot. It's not a rehearsed group, and come over to the States. In fact, this is the first time any of them have been to the States, so this has been a unique experience for them as well. So it's been great for our students at the university. It's been hopefully wonderful for them, and I hope you've appreciated it too. I want to tell you that the library here is happening. We have nothing like this in Louisville. I really want to applaud you, and hopefully we can do this again with whether it's one of our university groups or one of our foreign groups to visit. So we'll try to keep in contact, Dave, and make opportunities like this to occur again. Thank you. We're going to play one more number, and I'll let Sasha once again introduce and explain what this one's about, because Timur wrote this one as well.
Okay, so the title of this piece is Tim's Time. That is Timur's time, my time. My time has come. So, enjoy.
Spasiba. On drums, Pavel. Julia on trumpet. Dennis on bass. Pavel on piano. Timur on saxophone. Thank you so much. Dave, you want to come up? Thank you for having us. Hopefully we'll see you again. Yeah.
I would like to remind you that next Thursday night is the second Thursday in March. There will be jazz at the library again next week. It will be the Louisville Jazz Quartet featuring Dick Sisto on the vibes and a bunch of guys that'll just knock your socks off. Next Thursday night at 7 o'clock. You can watch this on KET possibly if the guys from telecommunications make the cut. But they are making a documentary of this, so look for some news about when it's going to be broadcast. Thank you very much for coming out, and we appreciate it. God bless. Take care. They're going back to Louisville. They got a recording session in the morning, so good night. Mike Tracy at U of L.